Well, good evening, ladies, gentlemen, wherever you are. This is the Jamaica Mix, and today, being the first program in the new year, 2025, just want to use the opportunity to thank you all for your support over the past years, and especially to wish you all, yourselves, families, a great new year, and hope that you will all stay safe and stay with us as we bring you continuous discussion programs right here on the Yard Media channel. Now, today though, wanna take a look at an issue that has been sort of burning in the field, if you will. Um, the business of Jamaican music, and specifically, I want to talk about dancehall music and how we have treated with this genre, certainly over the years. Now, let's let me just step back a little bit. We have been involved in as a country, as a small island, we have been involved in the business of music production and development for as long as we have existed. But in terms of participating in the recorded music business, that we have been doing for the better part of the last 73 years. And so as we roll into 2025, there are some questions that I think we need to um, have asked and to get some answers to. And that is, largely about how well have we done with the gift or gifts that we have been blessed with. It is my view that while Jamaica um, has, you know, shown its prowess in a number of areas, particularly on the sporting field, in the areas of culture and so on. To a large extent, what we tend to be doing in Jamaica, or as Jamaicans, is to pay lip service to our creativity. And I want to speak specifically music, right? So let's concentrate energy. Now, as I said, we've been in the business of producing music for the better part of the last 70 odd years. And, just retrace your steps, you will see where I'm coming from. We started, with creating recorded music back in the Mento era, back in the 1950s. And of course, within the next decade, we had essentially established our dominance in terms of that. To that extent, in December of 2015, in fact, December 11th, 2015 to be exact, the United Nations Education and Scientific Council, um, commonly referred to as UNESCO, essentially designated Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica specifically, as a music city in the UNESCO Creative Cities Network. Now, it, what that said is that being that the economic, social, and cultural center of creation, Kingston had given the world, not just Jamaica or America, but the world, some six distinct music genres. Um, from where I sit, I have it as seven, and the list that UNESCO rattled off included uh, the genres mento, ska, uh, rocksteady, reggae, dub, and dancehall. I'm gonna include Nyabingi music as part of that group of music. Um, and if you understand Nyabingi music, a lot of Mali's music, essentially, especially in the early era, was Nyabingi music. Rastaman chant, people like Bongo Herman, Ras Michael and the Sons of Negos. That is the Nyabingi song, and it does and should be regarded as a genre in and of itself. Nyabingi music over time became enmeshed into the creation of Jamaican music. And for that, you have to go as far back as 1957 when Prince Buster um, took the Count Ozzy and the Mystic Revelation of Rastafari drummers to the RJR studios, and they recorded the Folk Brothers song "Oh Carolina." And essentially, what that did, two things. It served to recognize the importance of Nyabingi as a significant element of the creativity of Jamaican music. And more importantly, it literally fused Rastafari and the value of Rastafari as a creative unit into the the Jamaican creative space and essentially into Jamaican music, and they never left. Today, the Rasta drumming, hand drumming, the congos, the percussions have become and remain an integral part of the Jamaica's music. And so one would suggest would think that after having this kind of background, this and more importantly, to have earned this status, this recognition by UNESCO, that we as a country would have gone much further in terms of how we would have capitalized the use of the music aspect of our culture, um, made better economic use of the culture. And I'm afraid I have to say that we have basically been pissing in the wind as far as that is concerned. To a large extent, and the question that it begs is, why has this been so? And if you look at it, and especially in the current dispensation, the answer is there for all to see. Currently the music has moved beyond just reggae in and of itself, but globally reggae and dancehall is the two preeminent genres of music that is coming out of Jamaica at this time. And the the way in which Jamaicans, both at the official and the unofficial level, sub levels, have treated the genre of dancehall music and to a lesser extent reggae music, um, you know, bears some discussion. Today, we basically associate dancehall music as my mother used to have a term she called jagabat music, jagabat, which means that have no value, worth none. And essentially, what has happened with Jamaica is that our class um, culture structure is literally the biggest obstacle in our way to, as far as it relates to taking advantage of the creativity of our people. Make no mistake, the majority of Jamaica's music that has been produced over the 70 odd years we have been in the business is produced by people who originate largely below Crossroads in Kingston, Jamaica, which means that if you're below Crossroads, mean that you're in the downtown, and trending into ghetto areas. Most of the youth them who make music in Jamaica are ghetto youth. That's a fact. This is not that is not subject to any wholly but discussion. That's just un, un, unchallengeable fact. And so the tendency is to look at the music that these people have been creating in the same way as we look at them themselves, that they are, come from nowhere, and they, as a consequence, whatever it is that you are producing is like yourself of very little use value. If you go back into the days of the mento and the reggae and rocksteady, who were the creators? Most of this music was created, as I said, in locations that essentially measure below crossroads, West Kingston, Trenchtown, Greenwich Farm, Rockford, um, you know, the whole downtown Brentford Road areas. These are communities that have little in respect of any kind of infrastructural investment. Most of the young people coming out of the 1950s and the 1960s who were involved in music had very little schooling, because it wasn't until the 1970s when the government created a policy, if you will, that looked at raising the investments in educating its people. In 1973, with the whole raft of social legislation that came through that period, that would produce better academic results for the youngsters coming out of school from then on. Having said that, that investment was not necessarily continuous, because by the 1980s they had gone back to dismantling or reducing the levels of investment. And the reality is, if you have an uneducated population, not only does it limit the ability of the members of that population from thriving, what it also does is that it creates other negative influences, or creates openings for other negative influences, which became a part of, or formed a hardcore part of what we now term as the Jamaican culture. So the writers of songs, the writers of lyrics of songs, from as far back as those days, were essentially penning lyrics based on their experiences. It is one of the elements of ownership, or that one of the elements that pointed to ownership of our creativity, and became an essential element of reggae music. And in time, the same approach, the same strictures held for dancehall music. So what because we tend to look at the creators in this sort of a negative light, what it means is that in as much as some from the cohort who was creating this music would go on over time to become successful at what they're doing. And a good example, Robert Nesta Marley, we revere almost at national hero status now. Marley essentially never had any schooling. Granted, he made a decision himself to abandon school by the time he was, 15, 16 years old. But to a large extent, if you go back, my own research points out that a majority of our musicians had very little schooling. A majority of our creators had very little schooling, both hardly above the elementary or primary level. Circumstances have shifted as we have gotten into the 21st century, and so a lot of our creatives now are coming out with the benefit of having had some secondary and tertiary education as well. But the point I want to make is that because we viewed these creators in a negative light, we also viewed whatever it is that they were creating in the same negative light. A case in point, um, in my own experience in the 1970s, the mid to late 1970s, when Marley, Robert Nesta Marley, and the Wailers were just coming through the gate. There was a group of Jamaicans, or what we call high class or upper class Jamaicans, who referred to Marley and and the members of the Wailers as dirty Rasta boy. And so you don't want to have nothing to do with no dirty Rasta boy. Reggae music was largely regarded as trash music, streggae music. And so what we did is that by virtue of these um, strictures that were leveled against the music, what it did is that it prevented it from being played on the local airwaves. Most of the music had to find its way into people's earshot through jukeboxes and so on. Again, part of the creativity of the same people who were pushing the music. People resorted to the sound system, which became the primary vehicle between the 1950s all the way through to the 1980s to take the music to the people. And so, as we traversed into the 1980s, when the music went through its various shifting, dancehall became the thing. And in the same way, we regard dancehall as not music. Now, the critics, and and I wanna uh, point some fingers directly to at just over the last couple of weeks, where we first of all, we see where Sting basically fell on its face, but for different reasons. Having said that, most Jamaicans who are critics of Sting were glad for its demise, because according to its critics, Sting is a trash show. Nobody not supposed to, the all the man them do is them sing about and a girl and them gunman and badman thing. Again, nobody recognizes, or these critics rather, are unwilling to recognize that the people who are writing these songs, who are creating these songs, are drawing from the influences that come from the communities that they live. And if this has been the case for time immemorial. If you go back to look at the days of rocksteady, the days of ska, when the Alton Ellis was singing about Dance Crusher. The Slickers were talking about Johnny Too Bad walking on the road with a ratchet in your waist or a pistol in your waist, Johnny Too Bad. These guys were writing songs based on the experiences that they were seeing within their communities. The same guys who were writing about police brutality, who were writing about the absence of social and economic opportunities. This is These are the influences that were coming from the environment within which these artists were living in. And when we got into the internegrine warfare period of the 1970s, that became the canvas, or it provided the material for the canvases that these artists were turning out. So we talk about political violence, ballistic affair with Leroy Smart, when looking at how social interactions shifted through, because of the pursuit of political preferences. Again, these were the influences that artists like a Leroy Smart was seeing within his community and writing about them. So when we step forward and we see people like a Skeng, who sing about the bad man, gunman thing, this is, we're quick to condemn the artists that all them singing about is decadent killing and gunman music. But what they are doing is providing the griot experience, right? Are telling the stories of the influences within their communities. They are writing songs about what these experiences are. And interestingly enough, because dancehall literally exploded out of Jamaica, even despite the negative uh, uh, um, titles ascribed to it by a majority of Jamaicans, particularly Jamaicans with money. This music basically broke through the borders, out of the borders of Jamaica, and it went to places like Japan. It went to the United Kingdom, and it went to West Africa eventually. And today, dancehall is one of the biggest music in West Africa. We talk about Afro beats, but again, this is again the way in which the Jamaican music has become so influential, and so the same subject issues these artists elsewhere in the world recognize that within their own communities, they are having the same experiences. And so the dancehall beat becomes the base. And the examples that were presented by the Jamaican dancehall artists, they have copied these dancehall stylings and are now reproducing these within their areas. You look at what's happening with reggaeton; it's pretty much the same thing. The Latin Americans have basically grabbed a hold of the rhythms that were created by Jamaican musicians, the lyrics that were produced by them, and they have taken these, modified it, and they have gone to town. The bottom line is, while all of this is taking place, Jamaica, which is the creative source from which all of this has sprung, uh, is hardly having much to show for its creativity, and which takes me back to the point. As a country which had been given this kind of designation, now remember, for a small place like Jamaica with a population less than 3 million people, to have given to the rest of the world some 7 genres of music. That is not something that, as a country, we should be scoffing about. We certainly should never be scoffing about this. We, though, have, you know, found it more worthwhile, more meaningful as a people to divide ourselves. So the people who are in a little bit better position than those who live below crossroads turn up them nose. Them same man we go and at a soca festival they may do and dance and walk almost naked on the road and everybody regale this as culture. I have nothing against soca and calypso. I'm just using this as a measure to indicate the extent of our hypocrisy, right? Because we have basically failed to come to terms with who we are, what we have contributed, and at the same time, the ability is essentially not taking advantage of the abilities of these young people and their creativity. We would rather them be doing or singing the songs, producing the music that that is befitting of what we call the gilded ears. We wanna be probably listening to the Fats Dominoes and the Ella Ella Fitzgeralds and so on and so forth, without realizing that these musicians coming out of North America and elsewhere, to a large extent, are drawing on the influences of their own domestic environments. And to a large extent, they also are being influenced by the spirit of Jamaicans who are taking material from their own domestic experiences and turning this into music. I run a program on a Sunday called Sunday Scoops, and one of the mantra that we basically base that program on is that if you want to have any idea of what has been happening in Jamaica on a periodic basis, listen to the music. Listen to the music of the respective periods, and it provides that great experience as to what the social, economic, and political issues that are impacting Jamaica, how those are being, taken and re-expressed by artists in the form of popular music. Is there is it that some of this music is risky? Absolutely. But we are a free and democratic country. And of course, yes, that freedom, that democracy provides the same freedom to those who would reject. But the question of the rejection is in the face of the economic opportunities provided by our music. It is almost as if we have taken what I want to refer to as a spiteful position. We're not putting the money in the hands of no Bogo Yaga or ghetto youth, right? And so what has happened? Others have come to Jamaica from elsewhere. The Japanese came to Jamaica in the 1980s, and they basically saw what Jamaicans were doing. In the 1980s, another crucial inventive or developmental period in the annals of Jamaican music, because dancehall, in its current iteration, literally had its baptism in the 1980s, 1983 to 1985, when the music again shifted because of the computerization or the advent of computerization into the music. Granted, the dancehall was eking out much earlier. There was the 1950s iteration, the 1960s iteration, the 1970s iteration when people like Sugar Mine had started to revisit Coxson's Coxson's catalog of Studio One music and basically reworking them with the use of DJs and other vocalists who were resampling this music to the 1980s when the technology came in, slang ting, basically kicked the gate wide open, and the rest is history as the music changed. And again, because of this development coming into the music from out of these communities, Waterhouse. What was Waterhouse? It is one of the most dangerous places in Kingston, Jamaica during that period. The Trench Town, the 1970s. This is where the epicenter of the negativity and the violence. But that negativity and violence was also feeding the creativity of our youngsters, and they took the imagery and the messaging that they drew from those communities and turned them into song. The Japanese, as I said, they saw this, they came, they conquered. In fact, by the late 1980s, the dancehall queen competition that Jamaica had created was now attracting young Japanese women. And, eventually it was a Japanese woman who came to Jamaica and won the dancehall queen contest. The mighty Crown sound system out of Japan basically raised itself up during this period and became the number one sound system in the world. Where did this influence come from? It came from Jamaica. Yet, in spite of all of this creativity and this creative force that was coming from our young people, we were at the back end. Today, the Japanese, the West Africans, the Hispanics. In fact, there's a big law issue in the courts, international courts today, that is looking at some, getting compensation from the Latin American music community for the utilization of Jamaican rhythms, the what we call the dembow rhythm, which that issue is still before the court, a major court issue, because again, at the time when this was being created, what we failed to do is, to the absence of, strong copyright legislation and information. Again, part of it, a big part of it too, is the paucity of educational opportunities presented to our creators. If you have an artist who talented but don't understand the the technical side of the music, largely because they never had the benefit of great schooling. Granted, today that is changing because most of the artists today are now more informed, are less likely to be going down this road where they're doing things in a vacuum. But the point is, as a country, Jamaica has not benefited to the degree that it could from its participation in the music business. The question of the value of Jamaican dancehall music, again, is one that we really want to take a serious look at. It's a difficult ask to quantify. The best the assessors of the value of dancehall music looks at it in terms of billions of dollars, in terms of its economic worth. The reality, though, is the Jamaica doesn't have what we would call a true measure of the value of its music as an economic force, its ability to contribute to the country's economy. And for those reasons, it is my view that Jamaica suffers as a result. My philosophy is a very simplistic one, and we saw some of this played out, particularly over the course of last year, with the hosting of these massive concerts at the National Stadium. But certainly last year and the year before, Buju Banton had done his Long Walk to Freedom concert, which rammed some 30 plus thousand people in the National Stadium. And what it certainly demonstrated is that here is a way to capitalize the economic value of our music as a whole. We saw on the New Year's New Year's Eve weekend, the Vibes Cartel's concert, which pulled in a similar 30,000 crowd in the National Stadium. With it also demonstrated the kind of reach that dancehall and certainly Vibes Cartel had as a dancehall artist. Of course, Cartel is trying to find his footing, having benefited from a follow-up with our court system that, despite being charged and convicted for murder some 13 years ago, the system had to release him back onto the road. One hopes that he will use this opportunity for better and to use his vast influence to help to turn the tide and to bring some respectability to the genre. But certainly he showed with the Long Walk to Freedom concert that was hosted at the National Stadium on Tuesday night. That again, dancehall has this pull. You had people coming from all over the world. In fact, according to news reports, there are some 18 or 19 private jets that landed in Montego Bay. Thousands came in from North America and elsewhere around the world to watch that concert. And this, in and of itself, was a dancehall concert. And I'm singling that out because for me, it demonstrates the potential of the genre. Each genre stands on its own, right? The 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 fact that some people are not on board with dancehall doesn't mean that you're gonna kill it because you don't like it. The reality is that we live in a world where we different sets of people have different tastes. The fact that I mightn't like to drink porridge don't mean that porridge is not good for those who like to consume it. I just don't like it. But I'm not gonna badmouth somebody who eat porridge because I don't like it. And one of the things that we seem to be very, very willing, and we do this so easily in Jamaica, is that we tear down that which we don't find favor with. And again, I want to come back. One of the reasons is that it speaks to what I call this divide that is just too much a part of the Jamaican society. We are all one people. I remember, there was a film that was generated more than a decade ago, 2011, 2012, that called One People, which basically said Jamaicans, we are one people. And because we are all conjoined by the same Jamaicanness. The fact that you have had a little bit of a better chance at life than the next person doesn't make you any better than that person. And so what we tend to do is because we see this dancehall genre as unworthy, and so we starve it of oxygen, right? Dancehall is an integral part of the Jamaican culture, the Jamaican cultural experience. There is a whole industry, right? That evolves and has developed around dancehall. We have managed in our own different ways as a country and as a people to kill that. Well, we have been trying to kill dancehall by killing the roots and some of its branches. We have created all of these things about night noises. I'm not suggesting that sound system must play in a residential community at how much decibel until 2, 3, 4 o'clock a morning. But certainly, as a country that loves to beat its chest, we embrace our music history in the way we advertise tourism. We use the same dirty head Rastaboy music, one love, one heart, let's get together, as a major advertising for tourism. Most Jamaicans would not remember that the same set of Jamaicans who are, at the forefront of driving this kind of advertising saw Bob Marley as a dirty head Rastaboy. And 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they now play that music upon the radio because a dirty head Rasta boy. And the same sentiments are being expressed with respect to the creators of the current dancehall dancehall creators. Him and I, bless up my brethren, bless up, bless up. And so I want to use this stream to speak to some of these negatives stereotypes that we throw at certainly our dancehall music culture. If we don't provide a framework for its development, all we are going to continue to see it as is as a negative. And while we are using that negative, we are attaching and appending this negative to it, there are people elsewhere in the world who are, you know, to use a Jamaican term, them glad back boss, because here is a country that has created this great music. It's a little left field, yes, from some of the contemporary stuff, but but it speaks to the current crop of young people. And Jamaica people are throwing it away. Jamaica people say, "But them people are stupid." This guy from Ghana who was on Vibes Cartel concert, um Shatawale, I think his name is. He you know, I'm listening to him on the show Tuesday night, and if him never identify himself as a man from Ghana and you don't know nothing about it, you'd think that a Jamaica him come from. And as he said in his deliberation while he was on the the show with Vibes Cartel thing, him say, and he's a big name artist in a Ghana. It was his dream to come to Jamaica and to perform as a dancehall entertainer in a Jamaica, the place that dancehall music originated, right? And thousands of people from outside of Jamaica, from France, from all over Europe, from the Caribbean, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, journeyed to Jamaica over the Christmas weekend, the weekend of Christmas and thereafter, to be able to take in that show. Instead of looking at what the show did for Jamaica in terms of its contribution to the island's tourism over the period, more you know, there are those Jamaicans who basically up it and turn up them nose and then basically scoff at this thing, rather than look at the message that is coming from the use of the genre. We spend most of our time trying to tear down Vibes Cartel because other Vibes Cartel let himself out of prison. The justice system in Jamaica failed, and as part of its failure, it eschewed the accused cartel, who takes his place in Jamaica as a result of that as a free man. And so rather than focus on him, let's focus on the stuff that that is produced. As an artist, and Shatawale make the same point, Bounty Killer, and multiple others who, as dancehall artists, expressed at the show this guy's ability as a lyricist and a dancehall artist. You look too at the trail of artists who perform. To a large extent, a lot of them are, you know, big stars in their own right. They are, and they have managed to come to take the opportunities presented to them, and they have, you know, demonstrated that their own abilities in terms of the work, right? You just take a look at the people like a Bounty Killer, you know, coming from nowhere. Bounty Killer is now is a global icon as a dancehall star. We in a Jamaica produced that, right? And you know, as we have produced hundreds of other big artists elsewhere, right? And so what we need to stop tear each other down, or to shoot ourselves in the foot, right? This is Shatawale, who come from all the way from Ghana, and who was at the show. And so I really want to use this opportunity with this stream here to say to Jamaicans, let us stop tearing each other down. Let us start to carry a conversation as to how we can make some of these opportunities that we have in front of us work for us. That UNESCO declared Kingston as a music city in the UNESCO Creative Cities Network, and this having been done some 9 years ago, we should be a long, long way away from as far as taking full advantage of it, of this. And these shows that were hosted over the last couple of years, the Buju show, the 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 Burna Boy show, the Chris Brown show, the Vibes Cartel show, and a couple of others that have been held at the stadium were indicators of how, if we had a program dedicated to taking advantage of the marketing opportunities that are available to us to capitalize on our creative abilities as a people. The Jamaicans who, to a large extent, come from below crossroads, who have made their name in the music business, those who are still there, those yet to come, and those who have long passed. We need to honor the memories of the ones who have laid this foundation, right? And I'm challenging. I'm not saying that government must do everything, but certainly what we need to have is policy framework that says to people who have money, right? Let us make the best use of those things that we are very good at. Let's make the use of it. Let us change the trajectory of our economic development. We don't have to import anything to make Jamaica music a big money spinner. We don't have to import no oil. We don't have to import no packaging material, because the talent is homegrown. The most we need to do is to spend more money at providing better educational opportunities for members of our population. And in the course of us doing that, if we create the kind of educational framework that allows those with the talent, with the skills, this kind of creative juice and energy, to recognize it from early, so that we can then move them into educational path that will allow them to better develop this talent that they have. That's what we need to be doing. In the same way how we train teachers, in the same way how we train doctors and nurses, we need to start to create the kind of outlet, create the synergies between the school system at the primary and secondary level that is supported by what we call vocational training at the vocational centers, or at the tertiary level, where people are able to develop, to hone their skills. It's not enough that you can probably go to the Edna Manley School and learn how to play an instrument, but you also want to go to fine tune the business management aspect of music, right? So that people understand marketing, presentation. We need to be, we as Jamaica, in the same way all the rest of the world look on us and say, boy, I have some athlete that I can't train him. Let's send them go to Jamaica, go participate with the coaches in Jamaica and become better sprinters. We should be doing the same thing with our music business, where artists who really want to learn this thing, right? Because there is an energy within the Jamaican music sphere, right? We need to bottle it. We need to capitalize it so that we can set the tone, right? If we teach people about songwriting, we teach them about lyrics and so on. What we're doing is multiplying the opportunities that is available to our population. My very good friend Mikey Bennett, who foremost producer, songwriter, and as I said, my very good friend, artist man as well, said to me some years ago that every day in the world there are at least 1,000 reggae concerts being held all over the world. And when you look, if you look at the bills for these concerts as they are, Juba Links, big up yourself, bless up, and thanks for joining. Mikey Bennett made that point. He said to me, when you look at the fact that there are on an easily 1,000 concerts every day across the world, and on less than 1% of these concert bills, there's a Jamaican artist. We need to change that. We need to change that so that let's produce these artists who are able to, once them have all of the training and the academic and the skills, them can go all over the world, right? So that them can be on these bills. Because here's the one thing we know. Once a Jamaican get him foot wet somewhere in the world, the country a benefit, both in terms of the intangible benefit of just being a Jamaican and flying the flag there, as well as the economic benefit because they must send back something come a yard, right? Jamaicans don't want to leave Jamaica if the opportunities are there. And even if them leave and the opportunity is there for them to maintain this back and forward flow, that's what we need to be created. We shouldn't have to be worried about the value of our exchange rate. Because in the same way Guyana find gold and oil, Jamaica have it gold and oil. We have it in the form of our creative people, artists who are singers, dancehall DJs, players of instruments. We have it. That's our goal. And what we need to do is to refine it, right? Refine it and put it out there so it go and work. We shouldn't be sitting down here waiting on some manna from heaven because we have it already. We have it. The greatest natural resource that Jamaica have is not bauxite. It's the people of Jamaica, right? That is our greatest resource. And it is up to us as a people to maximize the use of these resources. I'm not saying that government must go build the performance facility. But if you have a policy where there is integration of the Ministry of Education, both at the that looks at programs at the primary, secondary, tertiary, and vocational level to develop the music as an economic force for the country, right? There is also the Ministry of Culture who sit down and believe that by giving an artist an order of distinction or something, that is an investment in the culture. That is bullshit. What we need to do is to have synergy. In my opinion, music in Jamaica need a ministry by itself, a minister of music or culture alone, right? Because culture is the gold mine. That is the oil, diamond, and gold reserves that Jamaica have. But if you have idiot who provide oversight to the portfolio, you're gonna get nothing, which is where we are, right? This is 2025. We are a quarter of a way into the 21st century. And after 70 odd years of being involved in the production and the creation of music, Jamaica can't say that we have done the best with the opportunities that the big man, the creator, has blessed us with. And so that is my challenge. That is the challenge that I am putting out there to Jamaicans. Not because you don't like dancehall music. Loud the John, make it take. Right? Do like what you're supposed to do on social media. If you see something you don't like it, just scroll past it. Because I know everything for everybody. Right? I know everything for everybody. Let me see what Juba links. I believe that what's missing with a lot of these so-called artists is that they skip a vital and fundamental part of the business of what it takes to be a great artist. Technology allows many to bypass the grooming process and of refining their art. Juba, I could not agree with you more. But again, to remember, to a large extent, without guidance, this is one of the issues that basically flows through when the lack of guidance. Our biggest problem, Juba, is the lack of preparation at the foundation level. If our artists no have good schooling, just like how Wooly back in the 60s and the 70s, the artists them go sing and Coxsone or whoever the studio owner pay them a little $20 or $50 and them gone because them thinks that is money. You have to provide people with the foundational development, so that them then recognize that the technology is just a small part, right? Because if you understand the business of music, right? But again, our policy framers or policy, the people who create policy in Jamaica, no have no understanding of the business of music either. And so what we do is that everybody basically do their own thing. And so we have an industry. We have an industry. As I said, there's no alpha schoolboys anymore. The school play a key role in creating great megastars. Actually, they are still there, but again, their importance, alpha as a whole, their importance cannot be understated. The difference, though, is that today, a lot of what alpha would have been doing back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s in terms of helping to create musicians, a lot of that work is now formalized at the Edna Manley School. The late Ebo Cooper, I had him on my Sunday Scoops program a couple of years ago, and he spoke at length to that. In fact, under his tutelage, I think Buju's band, Chronix's band, and a number of artists who are out there now in the world, Kabaka Pyramid and so on, that a number of the musicians that these guys have who are now forming their bands, they came from this foundation that the Edna Manley School has created. So in fairness, it's not that Alpha is now redundant. I think they still have their program, but it is not as significant as it would have been back in the day when there was no formal system in place. That has now, I don't want to say it has been replaced, because to my certain knowledge, the Alpha program is still there, but it may not, the needs of the participants and those people who are interested in music is a little bit different. The current crop of youngsters that is coming through now who are pursuing music, they are following the setup that is now there. But there is still a need for a greater level of cohesiveness as far as bringing all of the pieces together. For example, you shouldn't have to go to Edna Manley alone to be able to do music. Or let me put it another way. If you determine, let's say I'm a KC old boy, and KC produced a whole heap of musicians back in the days. Some of the biggest keyboard players that run through Studio One came from Kingston College, but these guys learned the music by ear, and then they went into the setup straight out of school. Now, in the current dispensation, what the opportunities are there for, you should be there rather, for if somebody determines you're in a secondary school environment and music is what you are intended, you should be able to veer away from the grammar school curriculum that is being offered generally, and you probably would want to have yourself placed at a vocational institution that doesn't you're matriculating in the same way through the using the grammar school matriculation setup, and going to those places where you're able to learn how to play an instrument. Now you can then take it to the Edna Manley level, where you're going to read for a degree in the thing. But whatever it is, the structure, right? The structure needs to be more clearly defined so that it says to Jamaicans, if music is what is your interest, here is the path that you can follow, right? Yeah, as you say, I agree with you as well. The government, I believe, have no knowledge in the needs and necessity of reggae and dancehall. I believe that there is a broken connection between government and the youths, so no guidance, but rather restrictions is what most young dancehall artists are facing. Absolutely, Juba. I think but it's up to people like us. Yourself, you are actively involved in the sound system business where you are, but we have to make our voices be heard. We have to find fora to where we can hammer these points, because to a large extent that it is my observation is that a lot of what is passing for, or my critique is that there is an absence of policy. I believe that a big part of that comes from the fact of the statement you just made, that most people, the people who have portfolio responsibilities for these things, really don't know what is required. And you know, I wanna it's a facetious comment in a way, that them don't know that you really just need to ask. What we do is that we put together people who we like into roles that them really not geared for. And these are people who are supposed to now be providing direction. What we need is a cohesive approach. Music is business. Music is not just culture. And so there has to be a symbiotic relationship between the Ministry of Culture. You can't have music that have a multi-billion-dollar contribution effect. That is part of a ministry that have about 10 different mix-up subjects: gender affairs, sports, youth, community development. That's a madness. So where is the priority that is given to music, right? What we need to do is to recognize the thing. So if music is going to be a major area of a pillar on which we develop the Jamaican youngster and the Jamaican economy, you have to give it its own subject and its own subject minister, so that you can get the focus that the thing actually deserves. And by doing that, what it also means that you now have linkage. So culture or music, what is the situation with respect to a music curriculum within the educational system that is going to speak to developing our musicians or musical artists? You have to have that kind of cohesion. And then by extension, you look at the economic opportunities that are available, and the industry and commerce component of that subject ministry now comes into play. Again, if we are producing musicians in the city, because the country is known for its music, reggae and dancehall music is the biggest drawing card for tourists coming to Jamaica, right? Than any other thing. Bigger than the sea and sun and sand and the food is the music, right? The problem with that too is that nowadays, if you go in a hotel in Jamaica, a Spanish music you hear, because the Ministry of Tourism not talk to the Ministry of Culture. What we have done is that we lock out Jamaican musicians out of the hotels, because we have opened contracts with hoteliers to come to Jamaica, build hotel, and then we don't say to them, okay, so you're gonna run your hotel. These are the areas of focus. The music and the food is the significant aspects of the Jamaican culture. Instead, these hotels tell you, oh, we have a Jamaican night. The Jamaican night. Every night in Jamaica is a Jamaican night. If you go to Barbados or you go to Trinidad or Antigua or the Bahamas and you're in a hotel, a Bahamas music you will hear. You not hear no Ray and thing that, because you in the Bahamas, you in the Turks and Caicos, you in Antigua, you are hearing and being provided with the elements of the culture that represents the island. But only Jamaica, we have tourism ministries who basically provide a free hand. So a man come and him put on a hotel and him can then go over the Dominican Republic because him have some hotel over there. And they send a troop of entertainers to Jamaica, right? And them, them work for little or nothing because them a foreigner. And you then so you lock out the Jamaicans because the Jamaicans will tell you say you have to pay us at the economic value for our services. And the hotels lock them out. You can't hear a Jamaican music in a most hotel right now in a Jamaica, which is ridiculous. And so to come back to the gravamen of our discussion here, Jamaica is about reggae, dancehall, rock steady, mento, ska, nyabingi music. That has to be the defining characteristic of the country in terms of how we look. If we are not making use of these opportunities, what we are doing is we literally fooling ourselves. And so, we now need to stop just be talking around the issue. It's time, for example, that we look at maybe the national stadium, although yeah, it serves its purpose in terms of hosting these venues. Maybe the next thing we need to be looking at is building a massive entertainment facility outside of Kingston, close enough to Kingston, that is fed off these multitudes of highways. Find a piece of land in a St. Catherine or somewhere, and we build a complex there. We put in some shopping centers, shopping complexes, restaurants, theaters, everything. And so when you have a show, you can even do it just off of the boulevard where you come as you leave, as you head out of Kingston into Spanish Town. And so we need to change our thinking. This is 2025. We're almost, this year is the end of the first quarter of the 21st century. And that's why I say it's a broken communication where lawmakers of Jamaica have no regards to the power and influence of our music. Take, for example, Bob Marley, One Love song, played around the world in many different languages. Agreed. I think, though, what we need to be doing is to be making our voices heard. I am using this platform to advance this kind of approach. We're not tearing down anybody. What we're saying is, let us point the people and the thinking in the right direction. Again, my personal sentiment is that Jamaica, in the same way how we train teachers, nurses, doctors, police, whatever, and we export them around the world, we should do the same thing with our musicians, because this is a major identifier of who we are as a people. Music is a significant economic opportunity for Jamaica and Jamaicans, and it is time we stop fooling ourselves and talk about we're providing, we're gonna do this, let's stop talk about what we're going to do and do something. And we don't have to start in a massive way. We just need to create the opportunities that we can develop these youngsters. No matter sense we're cut the throat of the youngsters then if we are not prepared to provide them with the kind of sustenance that and the direction that we know is going to be in theirs and the country's best interest. My view is that the time for us to do that is now. Folks, it has been an excellent little period here with this discussion. I want to say a big thanks for the people who I know a number of people have been listening, some undercover, some who have showed themselves, and I want to thank you for that. Feel free to share this with your friends, share the discussion, and even at the end of the show here, let us continue the discussion, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube let's continue the discussion. It has been my pleasure. This has been this evening's edition of the Jamaica Mix. As again, the final point, as Jubalings talk about, mentorship and resources are needed to guide the young artists. I could not agree with you more. So, folks, again, we do this again every on Wednesday next week. We will pick up our discussion topic. Right now, let's keep the discussion going about the music. And if you like the material, if you're on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so we can, you can be advised when we do this. Again, you get a heads up. If you're on Facebook, feel free to share. And check out our website at www.yardmedia.com. Good evening. Have a great evening. Respect.